crack open a cold one. Let's record, Cy. Here we go. It is day 2 at wonderful Villain Sportsland. Thank you so much for having us, Nate. He's the, I don't know what you'd call him, the person that owns the track or manages the track, operates the track.
Yeah.
He is awesome. I am so excited to be here. It's been amazing. Zach, did you have fun driving?
So it was absolutely a blast.
Well,
and terrifying.
Zach is not the most experienced drifter. He just started recently. He bought a Corvette. It's my old Corvette. He also bought a 350Z.
Yes.
He's been buying all kinds of cars as jokes. He bought a JZX 100 from me to turn into a drift car.
Yep.
I'm gonna continue selling him drift cars as long as he will buy them. I have a R32.
Really?
Yeah.
But yeah, you should get real money for that. You don't want to sell it to me.
How much?
Well, the thing is, like, it's worth more money than I want to pay.
I don't know.
I don't.
I'm pretty cheap. Did I sell that JZX for cheap?
You did, but I like Toyotas.
Oh.
I'm not a Nissan guy.
Anyways.
Particularly. Anyway.
So he's super into drifting. He's the owner of ECU Master USA. So we have multiple ways we can take this conversation.
Yeah.
We could talk about if he's in over his head, if he's having fun, if he feels confident, like what's going on. We can thank him for driving here.
So it's a 6, an 8, well actually 6, 9.5, and wait, what was it? Confident? I lost track, but yeah.
Okay.
All three a little bit.
Or we could talk about something that I think he's very knowledgeable in and not his own business, but how have street takeovers affected Texas 2K, which is, this isn't even about Drift Week.
Well, 2K isn't even like, 2K affected 2K, right?
Really?
The street racing got so bad with people that didn't have fast cars, that were acting like idiots. Like the very fast cars go out in small packs and they go race on a remote highway somewhere, and then all the idiots came in thinking they were cool with stock Mustangs, Hellcats, whatever, and ruined it. And then takeovers are just like a whole different level of being an a-hole.
Was it the takeover stuff that killed a bunch of people right before Texas 2K this year, which is what the thing was?
Yeah, I think so. Or there's street racing, but like they keep lumping in takeovers with street racing when it's just like a clown sideshow.
So is it the street racing that killed the people that brought it all down?
Because I mean, they're spectators. Like real street racing, like old school TX2K street racing's on the highway. There are no spectators.
So it couldn't have been them.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't the people that really created TX2K. But
and special thanks to the sponsors, BC Racing. Look, I'm on all BC Racing stuff. So BC Racing supports Lone Star Drift stuff, tons of your favorite drivers around the world. They're super influential in creating media and everything else and making drifting great. Thank you very much, BC Racing, for making everything happen with Lone Star Drift and Drift Week. Thank you to ECU Master USA, who is in this video and came on the trip. Who else is sponsors for stuff? Come on the trips and drive, and also support the events. That is so rad. Go to their website, check them out, ecumasterusa.com. Is it USA.com?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I'm always like, oh God, did I say that right? Go to their website, go look at their digital dashes, go look at all their sweet stuff, all the sensors, boost controller, standalone ECUs. They make patch harnesses, so it's super easy to get your ECU onto your maybe RB20. I'm not sure all the ones. I kind of think he had an RB20 one though.
yeah, we have RB20, 25, 26.
RB20, 25, 26, he said.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, 1Js, 2Js, you name it.
Probably Corvettes now because he has that.
Soon.
Soon.
Yeah, I just put a dash and thermal cameras in that one.
Oh, he said it has a dash and thermal cameras. I don't know if this mic is picking everything up. Thermal cameras for the tires, which is hilarious.
It's sick. You'll see that when you're in the car.
And then thank you to Y-Plate Imports. Thank you to Torco Racing Oils and Fuel. Those guys are going to be used on our trip and products and stuff like that. New sponsor, so thank you so much to Torco Oils and Fuels. I'll be giving out some of the oil because these guys are doing so many miles and so much stuff. Thank you to those guys. And also thank you to Drift HQ, who brought the Drift HQ rescue van with all the parts. And they have tons of stuff. Go check them out online. They're a huge supplier of parts for drift stuff. They're great guys. Located down in Florida, but they ship anywhere in the world. Probably, I'm not sure about Antarctica or something. So how do you feel about something that already is doing something illegal, which, you know, we've talked about street drifting and then they hate the takeover guys.
Right.
So it's a little bit hypocritical, but not really because street drifting doesn't murder people.
You're not mitigating, you're not mitigating risk if you're making the event just for people to come stand there and watch it, right?
Yeah, and get
Street
run over.
drifters are mitigating risk, right? They're not doing it in peak traffic hours, they're not doing it with spectators, right? I mean, it's illegal, but it's like, it's degrees of being an a-hole, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they know they're putting themselves at risk, but really low likelihood they're gonna affect anyone else, right? But highway street racing, like if it's between exits, there's nobody else on there, very little risk of it harming someone else, but like the takeover stuff is just people being idiots spectating and driving. It's like the old school Dallas like street racing where people would line up, you know, pedestrians and watch a bunch of Civics and other crap go down the street, like somebody would go off into the crowd and you know, it's just not responsible.
So during Texas 2K, can you explain what happened? So you could say that, like, I know the police came out in force. They went to the venue in advance and made a press release saying that we are going to impound everyone's car that has anything to do with this. We are going after you guys hardcore. They were going after people's Instagram accounts. I know that they like jailed a Lambo owner that posted something.
His whole location, like the whole weekend, right? Like an idiot.
So he was doing something illegal, and now they're going after people's social media accounts. And I don't want to call any of our favorite YouTubers out and stuff, but plenty of the YouTubers are doing illegal stuff, whether it be, I don't even want to call anybody out, but they're doing illegal stuff and everything. And the police could absolutely start coming after YouTubers and stuff as well, who aren't doing stuff as crazy as like street takeover stuff, because it wasn't so bad. So how? Yeah. So tell me how that affected Texas 2K. Was there like police everywhere? Was there a stigma? Was it not really as bad as it sounded?
I like dropped by to see what was going on at the track, but like I did see like heavier than normal police presence. But you know, a lot of people. I mean, it used to be that TX2K everything was kind of based in Houston. You just race down I-10. It was a little irresponsible, right? Like there's other people.
A lot irresponsible because it's 200 miles an hour.
Some of the cars, but yeah, not the most of the group. But anyway, but like, you know, if it's between exits and you've like closed it off, like slowed down traffic a little bit and made a gap, like it's one thing, but the problem is like everyone else bandwagoning on and doing dumb stuff when they had no business being there. But I mean, it was already irresponsible in the first place. If anybody takes it a step further, then it's really negligent.
So Texas 2K was already kind of killing itself by having too much street racing then.
I mean,
it became too popular.
It kind of became like the world, like the Super Bowl of street racing, effectively.
Yeah.
Because people have like, there weren't track events suited to street cars, so people took to the streets in the original days, because like, you know, 1,000 horsepower Supers are useless on a drag strip unless it's just a track car. But now they've got actually roll racing events and some other stuff, so the big power guys are actually back on the track, and it's the idiots on the road, and it used to be the opposite.
I should have prefaced this. Do you want to explain for 10 seconds what Texas 2K is?
Yeah, so I mean, it started off originally as a super meet, and then it involved like became a Super and Viper meet, and then a GTR meet. So now it's like supposedly the world's fastest street cars, and they have a roll race event, drag race event, and it's, I mean, it was huge this year.
And it takes place completely on track?
The official events, yes.
Okay.
And there's always been like an open secret that people just came to street race at night.
Is the street racing thing at night larger than the actual event, or is the event itself the main draw? Like, what's the main draw?
I think for many years it's probably about 50-50. You know, huge groups of people leaving the host hotels, and now it's spread out enough that there's not as many common gathering points and hot spots where the police could get after it. But you know, I'm amazed it went on for as long as it did. I mean, 2K. Probably 12 and 13 were, maybe it was 11 and 12 were really nuts. And then the police started intervening after that.
So I was kind of thinking about, so like say, take street drifting. Street drifting in Japan is one of those things that was like beautiful and cool and translated really well, and they had anime about it kind of stuff, and you know, all this stuff was happening, and it kind of made drifting popular. Texas 2K sounds like it was made popular by the illegal stuff as much as the like the other stuff, and probably would not have grown without the illegal stuff.
100%.
Is it fair to now start calling out the street takeover guys? I kind of feel like it is, because they murder people. So they're kind of,
I mean,
I don't want to say anything
it's
terrible,
negligent from the start. You got spectators way too close with no barriers, and people that have no business being in cars. It's a free-for-all. Right? Then there's no ground rules.
So, is there any way to change what takeovers is or anything? Like, my question is
I mean, like I think Cletus and cars is like the closest thing to like a responsible takeover, right? You set up some barriers, let people do burnouts, you get a huge crowd, music, you're pumping up the crowd, and that's a great way to do it, honestly. Like, it's a good party.
They do that in Australia. They've been doing that for decades, burnout stuff.
And why don't we start, why don't we start doing that? Let them have a place to go show off their...
Do you think they would? I feel like the excitement of it is like the clout from like doing stuff with the cops and like blocking stuff off, and I think the draw is illegal stuff at night. Do you think it really is the cars, or do you think it's the illegal part?
I mean, you'd have to make an event to find out and see how much
you can
knock
roll racing? Is roll racing, you've probably done roll racing on the highway?
Yeah.
Oh, you admitted that kind of fast. I didn't think you'd admit it so fast. How much of the draw was it actually like how fast the cars were versus like the adrenaline would course through your body from you might get caught, things are dangerous, it's at night, you feel like a street racer?
It wasn't even so much the racing, because I never really had much to prove. I didn't have a budget to go after the big boys, and so it was more about like going out with a group of friends. I think much like the camaraderie of street drifting, right? It's about having that core group and going out in your cars, like quiet, dark in the night, 2 and 3 a.m., and just like having the road to yourself. So I think that it's along the same vein. But I wasn't out there trying to hustle people or make money. Like, street racing for money is kind of stupid, unless it's a dig. Like, it's hard to judge a roll race. Everybody's going to complain, oh, it was an unfair start or whatever.
Oh, because somebody can hit the gas first and then they just rock it off.
Right, or oh, like my lane was bad. I mean, there's too many excuses. Unlike digs, where Street Outlaws made a whole show out of like illicit street racing, which
that's a good point.
Yeah,
they did entire TV shows. That was fake though, obviously,
of course.
right?
Yeah.
Huh. So you have fake drag racing on public streets, which made underground drag racing more popular at the same time.
Yep.
You think they would ever do like a takeover show? There's no way.
That's what they're about. They're all about hustling for money.
No, I mean a takeover where it's like street takeover.
Okay.
Like,
right.
Like,
I think there's too much risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's people without barriers way too close to cars, right? And that's half the draw, is these guys acting tough, standing around the intersection with a car doing donuts around them.
So I recently did a video that I took down and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's all about car culture being ruined by the illegal things we do, but then we're hypocritical about whatever. But we still feel really strongly that all of our car cultures is going to be ruined by the next thing.
If somebody who's like all about smoking weed makes fun of somebody who like ruined their life with meth, I think that's fair.
You think so?
I think so. I think it's degrees, right?
Okay, that's a really good point. So you're saying meth is way worse than weed.
Well, and we're right now we're somewhere where weed is legal, but somewhere where weed is illegal, like I think it's absolutely fair to say, hey, like we're going to draw a line here, right? Okay. This is just negligent. There's
shooting
no point.
Heroin into your eyeballs is different than smoking weed.
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely. And I think
you're saying street takeovers is shooting heroin in your eyeballs.
I mean,
versus...
there's people on foot around cars doing donuts. People have no car control. Big cars, sure. I mean, the Hellcat, like I've had one or two, and like the donut, like the space it takes to do a donut in a Hellcat is like a city block. Yeah. That's a long wheelbase. I mean, you're gonna smack the crap out of somebody if you tag them on a quarter panel. And they do.
As someone that hosts legal drift events and tries to make them safe and worries about safety of everybody, I freak out when I watch those takeover videos. They're nuts. I can't believe how many people get hit, and then the more they get hurt, and like when people fall down and get hit and thrown on the ground or run over and like die or whatever, it makes them go viral.
Yes.
So the people get more and more wild. I've seen videos where they're like hitting light posts and knocking the light post down in the cop car. I think there was one. You remember that one?
I think so.
Yeah, like they get ridiculous, and they're honestly like, even I'm just like sitting there like, oh my God, like I can't stop watching it.
Yeah. Well, and especially if that media goes viral, it's not just car people watching it, right? It's people are gonna have a very strong opinion about how negligent that is.
And we were talking about like a lot of car culture for ourselves getting, how do you say, like cracked down on. Like if you watch Australian content, somebody's doing donuts, and like, remember the video where somebody was doing donuts in someone's cul-de-sac and the guy got scared, so he got inside of his own trunk and locked himself in his trunk?
What?
And then he was crying and called people. Sai, do you remember that?
Wow.
I'll try and link it and
bold.
stuff. But it was crazy.
Yeah.
And either the guy was super wussy or whatever, but like the news was like showing it and talking about it. The guy's like shaking like,
honestly,
oh my God, I was so scared.
I mean, I go as far, like I think straight pipe VQs are bad for car culture.
That's a good point.
Right? Just driving around on public roads, like they're never gonna be fast.
This is starting to call out a lot of people though.
It is, but I mean, that's the thing, I mean, we're at risk. I mean, the EPA is coming after the whole sport. And I think that we all have to be ambassadors for it. And when I was doing dumb stuff when I was younger, I didn't think about the consequences, right? At this point, I haven't done anything stupid on the street in a really pretty long time, honestly.
Yeah.
Because there's good venues, and I'm enough of an adult, and I have a trailer and a truck, and I can take stuff out. And
everybody does dumb stuff and pushes the envelope and stuff. I do believe that straight piped cars are so annoying to the general population that there's no excuse for calling yourself out so hard. You're make a law against me. Yeah. Stop this. It's like the whistle tip guys. Remember the whistle tips? I don't know if you guys are too young for this, but like 12 years ago or so, whistle tips, there were shops in Alabama or something.
I think it was California, maybe.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I think Bubba Rub was from California.
They were welding whistles into exhaust pipes so that the cars would whistle super loud and you can hear them from like a mile or two down the road.
Here's the thing,
and they were being as obnoxious on purpose as possible.
Right. But here's the thing, like, there's so much self-expression you can have with cars. Like, I love donks. I think they're hilarious. I love donk racing.
Yeah.
And I love like when they wrap them up in like a Kellogg theme, or they do like a McDonald's themed donk, and they're the loudest visual things you can ever see.
But it's not actually annoying anybody that's trying to sleep or do anything. It's not,
no. And it's great. Like, I love lowriders. I think they're neat. I think the culture behind like lowrider culture is super cool. It's all about tight-knit groups. It's a bagged caddy. I don't know if it's like a lowrider.
That's a lowrider to me.
Fair enough. But like,
it's on the ground and it's 25 feet long.
Right, yeah. But I think there's a lot of aspects of car culture where people can see it and appreciate it without you just ruining their daily lives.
So I kind of led you into all this. I take 30 seconds to think up a subject, and I hope to God it lasts 20 minutes. So now that we're talking about this and we're talking about the SEMA law stuff, what's it called?
It's the RPM Act.
Yeah, RPM Act. People are worried about cars getting legislated against more and more, and it becoming illegal to modify cars, period, that have any whatever and everything. As someone that is part of the aftermarket industry and that owns an ECU company, how is that something that you think about and could affect you long term? Will you be able to sell ECUs that are standalone and everything and plug into brand new cars that are legal? Or is this something that could hurt your business? Because right now you're supporting Drift Week. You support lots of professional drifters. Your ability to support the racing scene, which you have done so very, how do you say? Graciously and everything, which has created more content for everybody. You help Adam LZ's channel, you help Lone Star Drift, you help out all kinds. I think you were helping out Motion Auto TV.
Yep.
He was helping out lots of content that everybody loves. If something like that happens, our sponsors will no longer be able to create content by putting money into things. And you were, I don't want to talk about some of the stuff we were talking about, but how do you see that being affected at all in the future by legislation?
That's what the RPM Act is trying to prevent. They're just trying to retain our ability to take a street car and make it into a race car. Right? They're saying that even if you go back to early 1980s, if anything had emissions equipment, you're not allowed to pull the smog-riddled carb off of your 82 Chevy Caprice.
Even if it's not registered, correct? Ever.
Even if it's not registered, right? If it was ever a new street car, you're not allowed to take emissions equipment off. This includes homeboy at the dirt track on the weekend with the cut-up Monte Carlo that's just been a circle track car for the past 25 years. It's, it's really damaging potentially because so much of the innovation that's made street cars more efficient, fuel efficient, and lower emissions was driven by racing. The whole Audi ALMS, or the Le Mans program, their diesels and their technology in that. I mean, everything in racing trickles down to street cars. And so to gut racing is just nonsense. It's such a small percentage of the populace in general. I mean, it really doesn't affect the whole, and I mean, most of us are running our cars on ethanol anyway, right? The bigger power stuff, it's honestly a renewable fuel, burns cleaner.
Or you burn less racing on a weekend than someone does commuting in a few days, going to work an hour a day, or an hour, each way
absolutely.
a day.
My commute's super short.
So you're saying that the RPM Act, if it did get passed, would affect you?
It would protect us, right? The RPM Act is trying to protect us, and it would affect me in a positive way.
Wait, how would it protect you? Oh, I'm sorry, but if the other side, the other side.
Oh, if it went the other way, we'd be, and luckily none of the products we sell, everything we sell, it won't pass an OBD2 plug-in test, right? We're not spoofing that data, we're not trying to be anything we're not. It's scarier for the guys who are reflashing a stock ECU and inserting code that really is replacing an emissions component, right? For us, I mean, it's a full replacement. It won't pass a visual inspection, won't pass a plug-in inspection. So, but that's to say, it depends on how they want to interpret the law. I mean, they could take it really far if they wanted to.
So your business is a bit in danger, and it's pretty scary.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
So this is cool talking to someone that has a huge horse in the fight. We have race cars, but imagine building an entire business on top of this and being a race car enthusiast and everything, and then also affecting all the content that we love and the whole thing. I'm into electric cars, and Wout and I were yelling about it.
But we're going to need internal combustion for a long
but I was going to
time.
say, I still love internal combustion cars. I don't even own an electric car yet. I just like driving.
Well, and even Elon Musk, he loves real cars. His whole
He
vision.
also loves government subsidies and
that's strategy, right? I appreciate that.
Teat of government and using that in carbon taxes and stuff to destroy the internal combustion engine.
Not destroy, but his whole ethos was getting us weaned off of
carbon taxes and stuff. That's going to kill it. And he wants those carbon taxes because they're given to him directly.
Right.
Not to get political. I'm just
I hear you. It's a direct benefit. But
as he shoots rockets into space and wants to do 1,000 rockets a year to go to Mars.
Right. Oh, that was his pitch. He's like,
super hypocritical.
He's like, SpaceX will pay the tax, but it'll be 1% of what benefits Tesla, right? It's a little sideways, but no, we do need to look for alternatives, obviously, but the degree to which we do that and rob Peter to pay Paul, who knows? That's a whole different discussion. But going after motorsports when that's where a lot of our efficiency has been driven from, that's a little backward and silly, and it's just people.
It's also entertainment, and if the circus goes into town, they're burning fuel just moving stuff around.
Well,
if there's, you know what I mean? If people are going to Disneyland, they're flying there, they're doing everything. Humans are bad for the environment no matter what we do, and it's just picking on race car people.
I mean, you could ban air travel.
Yeah, but you
right?
can't
It's
because
totally
people want to
inefficient.
do it.
Yeah, it's totally inefficient.
Yeah, but they
right?
won't.
Exactly.
They can't.
That's the thing. It's
Yeah,
you know.
you can't go backwards like that.
right.
I mean, they won't let it.
Right,
You
right,
could.
right.
You could just.
Yeah. Yeah, but every like super vegan Instagram hipster that's super environmentally conscious, they're flying to Belize every year. They're flying to
So they could run their Instagram account.
Ibiza. Yeah, like whatever. I mean, yeah, it's nonsensical when they're burning more fuel than I am.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so I kind of covered the topic I was thinking about. Do you have any topics to think about?
Yeah, maybe later in the week. I'll come
No,
up
I
with
mean
something.
like anything right now, not a full topic, just anything that kind of like comes up with that same subject.
Same subject. Yeah, I mean, like we're just in a precarious spot. There's so much media focus on environmental activism, and this administration is big on it. And like, I'm all about protecting the planet, but and there's so many things that are terrible for it.
Oh, here's actually, this leads into the next topic. It was your industry that effed us all. It wasn't necessary. I'm not blaming all this on car takeover people.
Yeah.
I'm blaming it on rolling coal.
Oh, diesel guys are that.
Yeah. Diesel guys basically took us all to town on this, and the diesel guys, by rolling coal, made it so visually apparent. The government doesn't care who really burns fossil fuels or does anything else, or they would tax fuel so badly you couldn't drive or something like that.
My whole point with the RPM Act is why not let us, if you're really going to punish us, make us pay a carbon tax like big corporations do.
Yeah.
If we want to compete in motorsports and take all the emission stuff off a race car, let me pay a carbon tax, right? Corporations can do that.
Because they would have to do carbon taxes for everything, and they would have to figure
I mean, not
out
necessarily, but I mean, if a big corporation has a nasty plant and they're polluting a bunch, they just pay a fee.
It's too small to go after everybody.
I know, but it's
especially for something so arbitrary as that, where you could just be brewing your own ethanol, or I don't know. It'd be very difficult.
Right.
I think if you're doing carbon taxes, typically you have to charge enough up front at the purchase of the item or for the fuel that you would be able to figure out, or tires. They could carbon tax.
I'm sorry, like a license. If I want to register a car for off-road use only, right?
Yeah. Oh, so my point is obviously Takeover guys didn't ruin the whole industry.
Right.
I think the diesel guys were a component of it.
They didn't help, for sure.
And I think the hot rod industry, they had their issues and stuff, but like the hot rod industry has been going so long, and the boomers are a part of the government and everything.
Well,
like,
and that's
it's
how
kind of safe.
I hope so. I mean, SEMA was started by hot rodders to do exactly what we're trying to do now, which is to maintain our status with the population, with the government, to say, hey, look, we're not just up to trouble.
By the way, the guys that were doing the diesel stuff on YouTube, they got hit for, I don't remember how much, but between $1 million and a couple million or something like that in fines. I don't remember off the top of my head. You guys can tell me on YouTube. I'm actually kind of curious. I could also Google it, but we're in the middle of an interview.
Yeah, it was at least in the hundreds
Are
of
they
thousands.
hitting up any ECU companies and stuff like that? How does that work?
I think they've already gone after some people, maybe not manufacturers. There are a couple of suits out there.
Yeah.
But not, I haven't seen any that actually manufacture ECUs, because we're not replacing any emissions component, right? We're selling you a product.
Yeah.
But if you go in and reprogram a stock computer and make it look like it's not been messed with, that's a little deceptive. And that's what the diesel guys were. They were reflashing stock ECUs. They weren't selling standalones. They were
No, I know, but
deleting-
it's super illegal now. It's like a $10,000 or $20,000 fine or something like that if you get caught with a deleted diesel now. But everybody still runs a ooh, that is not good.
This diff.
We're listening to David Mesker's Axle Pop and Grind as he drives away
is it the
next
axle
to,
popping?
I think so, Brandon's Rod Knock over there.
A symphony.
Symphony of Beauty. So, what do you think? What do you think the future is?
I really hope
Which
that...
way is it going to go?
Yeah, I mean...
Are we just being scared?
Yes and no. It depends how far they take it and who they want to come after, but I mean, humanity's proven an amazing amount of resilience to stupid laws, right?
I mean, we're all still doing diesel stuff, and not me.
No.
Not me. But a lot of people are still doing diesel stuff.
Well, I thought about it. Mine's all stock, and like, you know, I hate putting $40 worth of def in it every couple thousand miles. It's a hassle to find it, and like throwing away this giant plastic container that's also wrapped in cardboard that also has the nozzle wrapped in more plastic on top of the plastic. I mean, it's a little insane.
The laws are dumb, but the laws are what they are, and
well,
you
if they
can
had a
get
def
busted.
pump, I'd mind it less, right?
You can at the big rig thing.
Yeah, but I have to I can't pump fuel there. They won't let me use my card. Whatever.
You walk inside and pay and go back out.
Yeah, still, it's a hassle, right?
Right,
to
I
go
agree.
seek out a different place to go put in, you know.
But it is what it is, and I don't think that we're at the point now.
When it's easier to break the law than to obey it, then people generally just break it.
Yeah. I don't think we're at a point where we can really stop the diesel guys, or we can stop this is Takeover guys and the diesel guys. It's not all their fault. It's everybody's fault. But the guys like on the track, I don't really think it's their fault. They're just getting drug into it.
Right.
And I think that they feel maybe morally superior and everything. And there's no golden bullet other than just stopping the litigation through a big SEMA pact or whatever, like they did 10 years ago when they did it again, because this is always a thing coming up.
Right.
But I think that especially with the sale of internal combustion engines stopping, they just announced Washington, D.C. is going to stop in 2030. I think California...
They're going to stop murder too?
Probably not.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're going to have legislation against it, and it's going to be a lot easier to legislate stuff. And if you are doing a business plan that should be lasting more than 10 years, it's pretty painful to like think about that.
And I had some even concerns when I started distributing ECUs in 2014, because I'm like, look, even then you could see electric coming down the pipeline, you know. And then somebody told me I think Holley sells something like 600 carburetors a day.
Wow.
A day. Right? And that's, you know, 25, 30 years after any of those carburetors were in a production vehicle, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we're going to see, I mean, look at this, most of the chassis here are at least 20 years old.
So you're not really that worried about it?
Not really. I mean, if it is going to taper off, it's going to taper off very gradually. It's not going to be a hard cut.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have a race car anymore, because the infrastructure to get everything, I mean, to redo our entire electrical grid to provide enough juice for everything and heavy trucks, like, our fuel and oil production infrastructure, I think we got at least 25, 30 years before there's a really significant change there.
I liken it to like when they make a change over to HDTVs or like anything, it takes so long even to change something small like that.
Right.
There is no way they're changing over the electrical infrastructure and gas stations and everything else.
Well, electric cars are still luxury items. That was the beauty of Tesla, is they sold it as a luxury item and people had to have it to maintain status, right? But they're not economically viable. You don't save enough fuel versus buying an entry-level Camry or Corolla for something similar in size. I mean, they're neat, they're super cool, but they're just luxury goods at this point. And so until we see them become a real commodity that's really useful for 95% of the population, then...
I wish there was a magic bullet, like we could just call out the Takeover guys or call out the diesel guys,
right.
but there's not.
I think just in general, we just need to behave a little better, all of us.
Yeah, but we don't.
Yeah, generally not.
I mean, we definitely don't.
I mean, we're here though. I mean, we've got all these rowdy cars. I haven't seen anyone driving like an idiot on the streets. Nobody. I've seen all the drift cars through town. Everybody's going the speed limit, using their signals.
Yeah, you're not seeing everything.
Okay, well, anyone I've seen, right?
Yeah. One last thing I'll talk about real quick, and then we'll get out of here. YouTube is kind of like the forefront and what everyone sees now, whether it be the diesel stuff. Like, no one would have really noticed the diesel stuff that bad, except you'd see little YouTube videos of them, you know, rolling coal on a person on a sidewalk, and it was very visually apparent that that was happening. Otherwise, in person, a lot of the time, it just looks like a broken diesel or something like that. You might not have noticed it that much, but things go viral now on the internet so badly. And now with escalation, like YouTube escalation culture, all the YouTubers are building crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. They're very visually flamboyant with it. They're doing crazy stuff all the time. I wonder if that is also a problem, because you wouldn't have really noticed the diesel stuff if it wasn't, I mean, Dieselgate with Volkswagen was a thing, but you wouldn't notice all the diesel stuff with other stuff going on, because you just wouldn't have seen it that much, especially if you're in New York or LA or Washington, D.C. or these really populated areas. All the diesel guys rolling coal are out in the country most of the time. It's not really a city thing.
Yeah, but that's going to form like somebody's going to write a letter to their senator when somebody rolls coal on them, some Karen, right?
Yeah, but I was just gonna say, like, I think the YouTube escalation culture is also gonna probably be a problem, whether it be watching crazy drift videos with huge smoke and all that stuff, watching hoonigan type channels, you know, like smoking out stuff and making crazy cars that are called like the tire killer or the smoke killer or whatever, and you're building these vehicles, because like 40 years ago, if you built like a car, like the Godzilla thing that just ate other cars and burned them to the ground and had like a giant flamethrower on them, it was comedy. No one saw it as bad for the environment. Now, if you did that and you were like, what if we made a giant, like as a joke, Godzilla thing that picked up crushed Teslas and we lit them on fire, threw them on the ground and watched them burn for 24 hours? I mean, like, and that was the joke. It would probably look awful to the public, but it would be hilarious.
No, that'd be funny.
What if we made a giant trebuchet or whatever?
Can we do a demolition derby event?
Yeah. What if we did a demolition derby event with Teslas?
With drift cars.
I mean, that's what this is.
Kind of already is.
But I was going to say Teslas, and we just demolition derbied them until they all caught on fire and burned down. Or we made a trebuchet and we launched them.
And you have to put it in the swimming pool to let it burn out.
But think about if we bought wrecked Teslas and built a giant trebuchet and launched them like 200 yards through the air and had them crash and explode, like that would go viral, and then you just see all this smoke for 20 hours or something like that. I mean, but I'm just saying, like, that's YouTube culture now. You can do that stuff, like the Whistle and Diesel channel and everything else, and it gets everyone mad on purpose. And that's the thing, is you want to create hate and you want to create anger.
Right.
I'm just babbling.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the people are going to do what gets views.
Yeah.
Right? No matter how silly or bad it is. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I think we're done. Is there anything to say?
Yeah, good.
Okay. You drove great.
Thank you.
I'm really glad the Corvette's still in one piece.
Yeah. A little scuff here and there, but not bad.
So much better than when I got it. He put wide body on it and everything. I'm gonna do car reviews later in the week, so if you didn't see this thing drive in this video,
you can take some laps in it. You can review them all yourself.
Yeah, so I'm gonna drive them down the street and like pretend to go get. 1 second. Yes, if it's 5 o'clock, go ahead. I'm filming. Yeah, I'm gonna go take him to like go get a tea somewhere and like review how it drives on the street, and then I'm gonna take it for a couple laps on track and just like, oh, this car is a piece of junk, or it's great. I know that car's great because
it's good.
It was my car.
Yeah.
He made it better though, because he's a real mechanic.
Sometimes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Boom.